Welcome to this video presentation of the Troop and Police Contributor Guidelines for Formed Units. After this presentation, and included some few tasks, you should be able to summarize the purpose of the Troop and Police Contributor Guidelines for Formed Units, explain the importance of the Troop and Police Contributing Countries Guidelines for Formed Unit, list the main United Nations documents that are connected to the Troop and Police Contributing Countries Guidelines for Formed Units. The Guidelines for Formed Units contains general information about the operational, administrative, and logistical and financial aspects of the deployment, support, and operations for formed units in a United Nations Peacekeeping Operation. Formed units is an uniformed unit, in other words, a military or police unit. The guidelines advises the troop and police contributors in their planning and preparations prior to the deployment to a mission, with clear references to the relevant superior normative policy documents. The guidelines focus on the troop and police contributors' preparations and deployment. The guidelines lists all aspects and refers to the original policy documents that cover each specific issue. The annexes to the guidelines gives the main detailed information, but also refer to the original policy documents. As a national planner, you will find all needed information in these guidelines, either in the document, in its annexes, or in the original policy document the guidelines refers to. The guidelines' aim is mainly information to all actors involved in planning and deployment of a uniformed unit to a UN mission. But the guideline also describes the process regarding Memorandum of Understanding negotiation between the United Nations and the participating member state. As earlier mentioned, the guidelines target all actors involved. That's member states, the permanent mission, the member states government, and the formed unit commander, the United Nations Secretariat and its departments, and of course, the individual United Nations mission. There are some related and important standalone documents that always should be read in conjunction with each other. Each United Nations mission has their own mission-specific logistic guidelines that describes where the mission conducts the logistics differently than the TPCC guidelines for formed units. The Statement of Unit Requirement contains the operational and logistical requirements for both the police or the military units in a United Nations mission. It is specific for each unit in each United Nations mission and contains the unit's capability, capacity, composition, and other demands. Medical Support Manual. Standard reference document on all medical support aspects of a United Nations peacekeeping operation and political missions in the field. Recce Report describes all relevant matters of the troop or police contributor, operational and logistic system, plans, etc. that were agreed by both the United Nations mission headquarters and the troop or police contributor during the recce visit prior to the Memorandum of Understanding negotiations. The COE Manual. Contingent Own Equipment Manual gives regulations regarding the standards of equipment and the reimbursement procedures. The MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, is the agreement between the United Nations and the troop or police contributor for participating in a United Nations mission. To give you a better overall understanding of the guidelines content, we have on this slide listed some of the guidelines paragraphs. On this slide, we have listed the most relevant normative documents that the guidelines refers to. The Fourth Generation Manual describes the entire process from the United Nations Security Council, gives the mandate, and until the United Nations mission is deployed and operational in the mission area. Even if this manual has focus on the Secretariat, tasks and work, it is a good tool also for the member states. The Food and Ration Guidelines describes all requirements regarding both the food and the water during the deployment and in the mission. Storage of food and water, purifying the water, and how to order food from the United Nations in the mission. Movement Control Manual. Chapter 10 in this manual contains all requirements and informations on the deployment, rotation, and repatriation of formed units. And finally, the National Support Element Policy. For those member states that want to bring a national support element, it is important to know how the United Nations will cooperate with these units. National support element is national personnel or equipment outside the United Nations logistic system or responsibility. Some troop or police contributors needs to deploy national support element due to their organization, structure, or logistic reasons. National support elements are considered to be a part of the member state's military contingent or formed police unit. The national support element members enjoy the same legal status, privileges, and immunity as other members of the military contingent or formed police units serving in a United Nations Peacekeeping Operation, as provided in the relevant status of force agreement and member states signed memorandum of understanding. The United Nations do not reimburse member states for personnel and equipment deployed as national support element. There will be no payment for the troop or police costs, or rotation, or major equipment or self-sustainment, and the United Nations bear no other financial obligations or responsibilities in connection to national support elements, personnel, and equipment. National support element personnel are authorized to wear UN headgear and markings as appropriate. In addition, they should wear national support element markings for segregation purposes. National support element personnel are authorized to carry firearm for personal protection and self-defense. All national support elements vehicles are authorized to bear UN colors and markings. National support element personnel will normally not receive the UN medal, but this may be negotiated during the MOU negotiation with UN. The field mission will keep records of costs incurred for support to the national support elements personnel, such as accommodation, rations, fuel, electricity for national support elements, infrastructure. UN will recover these costs through reduction of the contingent own equipment reimbursement to the troop or police contributors. The guidelines acknowledge the national support elements and list national tasks that could be a national support element responsibility. The troop and police contributors guidelines for formed units gives details of expected quantum of bottled water each unit should bring and how to bring it to the mission. Food rations each unit should bring and how to bring it to the mission. Repair and spare parts, and drugs and medical supplies. The guidelines also give details regarding the troop or police contributors' responsibility for water treatment and purification. Clothing. What is the United Nations responsibility, and what is the troop and police contributors' responsibility? And finally, painting and United Nations markings of vehicle and major equipment. The guidelines has many details regarding the movement arrangement. Since the United Nations normally organizes both the air and the sea movement, it is important to understand what kind of equipment we need to send by air together with the troops, and what can be shipped by sea with the main equipment, with the vehicles and containers. What do we need to have access to when we arrive the mission area, and what equipment can we wait for until all equipment arrives? This is even more important when we talk about advanced party and the main party in the initial deployment. What kind of equipment do we need to send together with the advanced party, and what may be sent together with the main party? And what equipment can be shipped with the main equipment, vehicles and containers? We have in this presentation introduced you to the Troop and Police Contributor Guidelines for Formed Units. Key takeaway: the guidelines advises the troop and police contributors in their planning and preparations prior to the deployment. The guidelines contains all the logistic and administrative requirements for the planning and deploying a unit to a United Nations mission. The guidelines refer to the original regulations in other United Nations relevant normative documents. We recommend you now to study the guidelines by answering the questions we have prepared for you. Best of luck.